Ray's galvanized.
Yeah. Congratulations to Rachel on that. They got second place on that.
They got second place, and I guess it's the first time they've made it to sections. It's a little unclear, but
I was the director when we did it.
Oh, phenomenal!
yeah,
I saw the. She's got some talent.
what did they get? The one-act play. There was a big competition here on Saturday, 8 teams, something like that. 5 teams, and Roseau took first, and Arkansas took second. So that means they get to the top 2 teams won the sections.
In Crookston? Yeah.
First on Saturday.
I was. What a performance! She's got some talent. Is she that dramatic at home too, or usually not? Good, because she did a outstanding job.
Well, it's a Playhouse. They've done that. She enjoys doing those.
Oh.
No, the kids, they really.
A little easier on.
This year. I watch them every single night.
A little easier on her knees and her back and
Yep.
getting everything, huh? No, that was impressive.
Times for basketball.
Well shot. That's well shot.
Her back.
Yeah.
You didn't know they were making those? No. So that's a project that Nathan did years ago when he was in school and thought it'd be a really cool idea to bring back to the students are making them.
Valentine's Day's coming up. Pretty fun. Welding going on.
They're gonna make them and sell them and try to raise money for the welding program.
Oh, they are gonna sell them. Yep. Good.
That's the plan.
Whack.
Yeah, she's a flower.
One is good and doesn't irritate.
With iron roses.
Yeah. Well, said if my face turns red, that's
Crystal's ringing.
not going to be surprising.
I'm up there chit-chatting and forgot that we have a meeting.
Oh, here they come.
Get on them right away, Corinne. Just kind of look.
Oh, you guys are changing up the seating
You know,
arrangements. here. This
just
is-
set the page for the year. Set the page for the year. Oh,
Robin's meeting. You have to sit next to Corinne.
Well, you make it sound like it's
You have.
a task.
You have
I
to.
can handle it.
You have to.
No. Is this a reminder for you to sit there?
He just
Yeah.
switched with you, so you got
That's
to.
your
Don't
spot,
sneak
right?
away.
Or was that Robin's? Is this, which one's
No,
that?
no.
Robin.
Which one?
She doesn't.
No, I
It doesn't
don't, I
matter.
really don't know. I'm just joking.
Or care.
Doesn't matter.
Or you do care. I know you do.
I don't care.
Not church.
It tends to work out that way.
It does.
Yeah, we all sit in the same spot, yeah.
So Corinne has all this stuff, right?
Thank you.
And I gave, Lynn has it, Boyd has it, Robin has it.
The only thing we didn't get was the members.
You didn't get that yet, though, right?
I don't think so. Right.
Okay. Well, here, you can pass them around.
Ready to get started?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay. So, I guess open up citizens forum and don't have any,
No, I don't have any.
nothing? Okay. Then, under reports, board committees, the policy committee. Boyd?
It's just, yeah. So I just get to Corinne, now I get it.
Yeah.
It's mainly just the ones we're going over tonight is the only real thing going on. We've got a number of additional readings I don't know. Jeff, got anything to add?
Well, I think there might be one that might raise some eyebrows, and that's the removal of policy 423, activity passes for school staff.
Oh, yeah.
And it states the purpose of this policy to provide annual activity passes to full-time school employees, coaching staff, and board members, encouraging them to frequently attend school extracurricular activities, which help to encourage students who are participating in the activity, as well as serving to remind all students in attendance who are spectators of appropriate conduct at such events. This is a unique policy. There's not one on MSBA. And I think there was good intentions on having it as a policy, but I'm recommending that the district not carry this as a policy. I think it's great that we provide the activity passes to staff and school board members to encourage them to attend activities. I don't think we can rely on people with free passes to do supervision. That's why we hire a game supervisor. Also, there's a monetary value to it. So we have to be careful with that as well. When you have it in policy, that means you're going to do it whether the district's in the financial place to do that. So I just think that's something that I would recommend the board review it on a yearly basis and just approve or not approve giving out the passes on a yearly basis, probably like when we do our budget. And my rationale is if we're sitting with a budget where we're cutting some programs, that might be a good year not to give the free passes, or at least have that discussion at that time. And I think it's more for the optics than anything. So that's my recommendation. And I think that's kind of a discussion we had with the policy committee, and I think everyone's kind of on board. And there was a time where it might have been discussed during negotiations as well, so that might be a more appropriate place for that. But it's not that we don't feel that activity passes is something that the staff shouldn't have. I'm 100% behind it. I just think that it's not good practice to have it in policy. That's my only concern.
Do you recall, did we give them out automatically, or was it as they came up and asked for them type deal?
We just hand them out to everyone.
And as I remember, it was a negotiated item at one point. I think we came to that conclusion, just said we shouldn't be giving them to everybody. There's a
Yep.
benefit. So
Yep.
It
I
did
just think
sort
the board should have the prerogative, if it's a financial year where we're making cuts, that might be something to at least have a discussion.
Yeah. So,
So that would be something we would add to, say, the June or July board meeting?
Yeah, I would think, when do we do
That's kind of a standard?
June budget? We ordered them in August.
July and August will be upcoming year.
So I would say we would put that on our agenda for the June board meetings. That's when we do our final budget, isn't it?
How much of a budgetary impact do you think it has to?
It's hard to measure, because I don't think the card costs as much to hand out, but we charge $70 for the public to buy them.
I think it's 75. Isn't it?
75.
I think so.
Is it
Yeah.
75?
I think that's what's printed on them, yeah.
but if they just even were going to attend 2 games, that's $10, and 40 FTEs are roughly what we have there. So, that's $400 maybe you could argue.
As far as paying the gate fees, it's not a huge thing.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had some kind of, like how big of an impact is it? Is it thousands or is it not thousands,
It's not thousands.
I just like the idea that we put it every year, revisit it. That's fine.
Yep, I
Takes us
think it's fine, but I just,
magnanimous as a board, if nothing else.
my point is
Because I think we'll say
if
yes
you're
to
handing that to all the staff, and then the board turns around and we're having budget talks and we're gonna cut a program, I don't think we wanna be beholden to just handing those out. I just think it just provides poor optics and. So, That's the only controversial policy I can think of. There was another one we were gonna remove. What was that one?
There was that non-discrimination
HIPAA.
HIPAA. I guess that was basically.
It didn't fit, or it,
No, it's more, that's more the medical field.
yeah,
Well, it's covered under state
something,
and
yeah.
federal
it wasn't necessary.
No,
requirements as well.
that was another one that was unique to our district.
So, yeah, that's policy for the most part.
Anything else on that? School Forest Committee?
School Forest, business as usual, $13,188 still in the coffers. We have purchased a dozen clinometers. I think it was a dozen, wasn't it? A dozen clinometers. And I think there are 2 staff members who actually know how to use them. So this will be exciting because I think the staff as well as the kids are going to learn how to use them. But I think Matt Grover and Chad Larson.
Yes.
Was the other one, know how to use them or at least claim to, so they can go out and figure out how much cordage it is we have in the school forest. So,
I think we even actually said they were gonna come and put a demonstration on, weren't they?
yeah, we talked to them, he said, we're spending money on you, we might as well have something to show for it. So hopefully maybe by this spring, we have somebody stand up and show us how to use them. So that'd be good. We are still in progress as far as our candlelight ski, March 10th, mark the date. And a lot of details on that, but that's still in the works. And the trails have been groomed. Thank you, Jeff, thank you, Tim. And I think, as far as I know, I saw 2 more vehicles out there today, but they get a decent amount of use. So if you're going to use the trails with snowshoes, just stay off the cross-country ski if anybody's listening to this at home. Otherwise, get out there and use it because you got a week of beautiful weather and a lot of snow. So that's about it.
Finance Committee?
We met tonight, right before the board meeting, and there was nothing unusual about the financials, with the exception of some basic revenue that was posted in posted in January, and last year it was posted in December, so it caused an outlier. So it'll be much closer to budget. And I think that's about it. Do you have anything else, Robin?
No.
Crystal?
So, like Lynn was saying, if you look at your budget report on the top here, the percentage received in comparison to previous years, there was about approximately $525,000 that wasn't posted. So if we were to add that in there, it'd bring us to 43.5%. So we would be in line with previous years then.
Thank you.
Just so you can see that. And then just that we have all after tonight, if the board approves the last 3 contracts, we'll have all those complete. So I'm looking at the current year's budget just to see where we are with actual numbers and if we're gonna need to do a revised budget or not to be a little closer, or if it's within reason, we'll just leave it as is and starting to look at budget year for next year.
Certified Negotiations Committee? Jeff, do you want to cover?
I think that'd be Mr. Novak's principal contract. It was settled. And I think it's in the write-up.
We got details on that if anybody wants to ask, but everybody had a chance to look at it.
So basically, the health insurance, we made consistent with the other contracts, and that's 5%. Up to 5% the district will cover. Salary was 2% the first year, 2.5 the second year, and District 403B match went up $480.
And then for the non-certified negotiations committee?
They asked me. Included the health insurance language. Salary increase 2% year 1, 2% year 2, and then addition of some specific stipends for such things as boiler license, aquatic facility operator, and so forth. That's all I have on my thing, unless someone has anything they want to add.
And then the other non-certified, did you want to talk about MSEA too?
Oh, MSCA too, that's right. Gotta find that one out.
I left all my notes at home.
Okay, yep. MSCA was 2% year 1, 2% year 2. Beginning year 2, the District 403 match went up to $100 from $75, and we added a nighttime differential of 20 cents if 50% of the working hours are performed after 4 p.m. And the insurance language is also added. I think that's the basics of it.
Should we maybe mention that we changed that salary scale so it does not reflect?
Oh, the longevity?
Yeah, the longevity.
Yeah, we did some work with the longevity schedule, so that it was based on years of service, not so much step placement. So there are 6 staff that will stay on the old longevity schedule, because we didn't want them to go backwards.
And then on Ask Me, we did establish a salary.
And ask me to establish a salary schedule. It's in your packet. Highlighted in yellow is where those people are at on that schedule.
And then are all groups switching to pay twice a month?
We're going to pay two times a month, the 15th and the 30th. That'll be everyone.
And those half dozen employees I noted in there, that will just continue to each negotiation to
Yep,
be taken into account until they disappear.
yep.
Okay.
And I grandfathered them out of it.
That pay twice a month, is that for all groups, Jeff?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. So, I would say overall, if you just count the number of meetings and hours sitting at the table across the board, I don't think I've ever been through such smooth negotiations. I think it was pretty, across the board, it was very good.
And that twice a month will begin July 1. Am I right about that?
July 1, 20.
So July 15th would be the first one, and then July 30th going forward.
Wouldn't really the first semi-monthly be July 30th? Aren't you going to have 15 days?
Well, we'll still have, no, because we'll still have, like, those June hours will still be paid on July 15th.
Okay, so you
But
are
for
going to
then,
do that.
yeah. So
For
those
that
June-
half of June, you're going to
Yeah,
pay.
so
Okay.
then the July.
So it
1st
really
would be
begins with the
30th.
16th pay period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just wanted that to be clear, what it was going to be. So.
So they're paid 2 weeks after, approximately, at the end of the timeframe?
So everything's settled and we can start beginning in about 12 months or so.
You have a nice gap coming up in that you were the one who would suggest we try to get it all done in one,
Get everyone on the same cycle. Yep.
correct, on the same cycle. So I'm glad it worked out that way, but now we should have a look at like you say, 12 months anyway of,
Yep. Well, we'll probably have to start. There's some timelines that you can't start negotiating so many days before the end of the contract, but I think there's a number of things that kind of slowed us down, just calendar and meeting wise, but I mean, I think the actual negotiations went very smoothly, I thought. So next year will be even better.
Okay. On to the superintendent and elementary principal.
Okay, I sent quite a bit of stuff out in my weekly report and working session packet. Enrollment report, we're at 484, that's down 1 from December. You have in your packet the strategic planning update. Most of it had to do with staff training for PBIS, ASVAB assessment. We have started, and this is down my line here, maybe I'll just hold that off. One thing I did not put on here is our Northland Counseling Center partnership. They do have their person in-house, and it's Dessa. I always want to call her Dessa Brunette, because that's how I remember her, and I can't think of her name.
Bergen.
Thank you. Is now housed in her office, is in the main office, and they have hired a CTSS person that should be starting sometime later in February. So that, I didn't stick that in the strategic plan, but that is up and running and in place. So.
Is that like a support person for the?
Yes, it's the CTSS, and I can bring more information next month. There's like social emotional learning strategies that they teach the kids. Some of it is with groups of kids, some of it they go to homes and do training and stuff with the kids. So it's a support piece for that mental health that DESA does. So. February calendar is in your packet. Actually kind of a small list this month. One thing I will be adding is possibly getting the calendar committee together before the end of February. I'd like to get next year's calendar set sooner than later, so probably adding that to the February if I can find a date. And I think that's, Lynn, you're on that committee? I think you're the only board member on that committee,
I
correct?
think I am, maybe.
Okay. School nurse report is in there. And this is the first part of the year, September 3rd through December 31st. And you can look at that. So I think we've had a few rough days with sickness, but we're doing better than some districts, so hopefully everyone stays healthy. Head Start School Readiness Mixed Delivery Program. I mentioned that in my report that I sent out to you. We're meeting with Head Start staff from Northwest Community Action and our local Head Start staff, and we're looking for ways to partner with them. And my goal is that all 3- and 4-year-olds will get the same programming. Right now, Head Start 3- and 4-year-olds are here 4 days a week. With our school readiness, because of the numbers, we've had to go to 2 different groups. We have a 4-year-old group that goes 3 days a week, and then we have a 3-year-old group that goes 1 day a week. And that's not equitable in my mind. So I think if we can do a mixed delivery with Head Start, share staff, share facilities, we can mix the kids so that we can have fill the classes for the teachers and be able to provide that 4 days a week for all the 3- and 4-year-olds. Don't have a totally clear picture on what that's going to look like. Could be some scenario where they hire the 3 teachers and we hire the support staff or something like that. But there's ways that we can do a mixed delivery program that makes things a little more consistent. And we'll go with the curriculum and the assessments that Head Start is using, so it's consistent for all the kids. So I think that'll be beneficial. And that
Is
would
there
be,
funding for that?
well, the funding, we get our school readiness funding, ECFE funding, there's federal funding for Head Start. We also have our VPK funding, and that's for 4-year-olds. And I'm looking into it, but I believe we're gonna be able to capture more of all of our seats. Right now, the state has allocated 23 seats. Cap, because the state had only so much money for their kindergarten program. This year, we only have 10 4-year-olds, so we only capture those 10 seats, and we're only getting funding for those 10 kids. I think we can count the Head Start 4-year-olds, depending on how we set it up, so we can fill those seats and get that additional funding. So, but those are the fine things that we need to.
Right,
But
yeah, I was
that's-
just curious about that.
Yeah.
I was sure you had considered it, but I was just
Yep.
wondering where we were on that.
So hopefully, we'll get a little bit more funding through this. But I think our expenses will go up as well too.
Right.
Providing more service, but I think it'll pay for itself. We're close to it. One thing that's not in the agenda, we are exploring daycare, providing a daycare program within the school building. Crystal and I will be meeting with Joanna Onstead sometime in February. And that's based on there seems to be a need within our community. We're not wanting to compete against local providers. We want to partner with them. But we're looking at what we could do to possibly have some daycare provided within the school building during the school
More
day.
than just a latchkey, but
Yep,
a
yep.
full daycare
Yep,
program.
and we've looked at some other schools preliminarily, and a lot of them run it through the community yet. So I see a scenario next year we could have in-school daycare during the day. We could have after-school, school-aged school care, similar to like the Bears Den that they ran before. So I think those are some needs that we can fill. So that's just kind of in the explorations stages right now.
How popular, I mean, is there a bunch of schools that have been doing it, or?
I don't know. We haven't been exploring. There's quite a few.
There's quite a few, because I sent like a mass email to my Masville group. And there's quite a few school districts that do run childcare through their community ed program and have it in their school.
Do you know any off the top of your head?
Kellier actually just started.
Okay.
There's more in the cities area, but Kellier's one that just started this year.
I know Bagley has an after-school program, or they used to, but I don't know if they had a daycare.
And I didn't look at this link, but it says Benson.
Benson.
Is this like Morris Benson?
Yep, down in that area, yep. So,
Is with it being somewhat, I've been hearing it from a bunch of people, is it something that we need to motivate a little bit and look into it a little quicker or harder, or come up with a few more people? I mean, you guys are definitely busy. Is it something that we need to maybe look at a little closer or quicker on it, or?
I don't know.
Let's say
I see
have it
Brent's
ready to
not
go
here. I'm
for
gonna
next fall.
stick him on it.
What do you think? Have it ready to go for next fall, something
That
like
would
that?
be
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, by next fall.
Yeah.
If not, late summer maybe, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I was thinking maybe if you had the initial meeting with Joanna and then go from there to select maybe
Yeah.
more people to
Who
help.
is this, Joanne? You know her?
Works
She's
in
social
social
services.
services.
She
Okay.
probably knows all the childcare regs.
Yeah, the licensing.
Yeah.
Sure.
And being a school facility, I don't know if the regulations are different or, so there's it's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but, so it's be a learning experience. But I think, there's lots of schools that are doing it, so I think once we figure out what we need here, I think we can put it together pretty quick. Toughest thing is gonna be finding staff to fill the position. And that's, because there's certain qualifications I'm assuming that those staff would have, but, so that's kind of the theme right now is finding people.
Certainly a lot of advantages to having, I mean, even down the road, as far as even the teachers or people coming in looking for jobs. I mean, they look, I mean, that's always a concern, every parent these days. I understand, I haven't been in that game for a little bit, but it just, it's like, is there daycare available? I mean, boy, what an attractive thing if we can make it work.
Absolutely.
Would that staff be a school employee or is
Yeah,
this
through
considered?
It'd be through a community
Yeah.
ad, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Not a private enterprise.
No.
Although the
Find people to work.
driver's ed is set up that way. It's a private enterprise through the school community ed, right?
Right.
I mean, so there are
Yeah, there is
options.
that option. I mean, there's
Yeah.
options. Yeah.
Well, because I know there's one at the church right now
Mhm.
that operates out of the church, and I'm not sure all the regulations.
Yeah, there's lots of things we need to find out. I think one of the biggest areas are the younger infant age are the ones that are having the hardest time right now, from what I'm
That
hearing.
racial is,
Because you can only have so many of them, so I think that's a high need, so. And we have lots of staff having babies right now, so it's impacting our staff and communities, so,
Which is a great thing. It's just
yeah.
when they're all competing for a limited number of slots out
Yeah.
there.
So I think there's a need, and I think we can get something in place to fill it. Next thing I have is the long-term sub-pay request, and I put a letter in your packet. Hope you've had a chance to look at. And I guess I would say I don't argue any of the points made. I guess my only thing is we would be setting precedents. This is
We already have other long
we've already had long,
retired.
yeah. So this is something that we can look at for future reference if we want to have some kind of salary schedule based on experience. But I think to be fair to people that have gone prior this year, we've had some long-term people in the same situation in the past, and we've kind of stuck with our current system of long-term sub-pay.
Somewhere, would this be a negotiation item somewhere down the road?
No, I don't.
Because the long-term subs are,
Right now, we don't have, it's not like part of a contract or anything.
When did we reevaluate the sub pay? How long ago was
That
that?
was
Last year.
6 months, 7 months
Yeah.
ago, yeah.
We
So-
just raised it and,
We're at the high end of the regular rate. I'm not sure where we're at with.
I guess we never checked on the long-term rate.
As long as I can remember, the long-term subbing has always gone to the base rate on the teacher salaries schedules, how we've based that.
I guess my thought is I don't disagree with the points. I just think that
Yep.
it does set that precedent for future and does say something about other people in the system that have come back for that long-term sub
Yep.
rate.
So I would say this would be something that we can explore and look at for next school year if we want to have some kind of salary schedule system set up based on experience and licensure and stuff like that.
Because we were going to reevaluate the sub pay like semi-annual, or, I mean, every year, weren't we?
We were
Or
gonna
was it
tie it
every 2
into the negotiations year, so every
Uh-huh.
other year, but we
Yeah,
can
every
look
other
at it.
year.
That could
Uh-huh.
be something we can do during our 12-month break for negotiations.
No sense in not having something to be contentious about.
That's right.
yeah, because you'd want to look at fiscal impact. I mean, as best you
Yeah.
could, I guess, with that. But
Well, I look at the immediacy of it, and I think I'll play devil's advocate here and say, I asked you these questions, but number one, how perfectly does this situation fit in terms of licensure, in terms of, how often do we get somebody who fits that square hole that perfectly? So we've got somebody who was teaching this last year at the exact same spot, right?
If we
2 years,
create a
2 years
third
ago.
category,
Mhm.
maybe we create a third category of long-term sub, like still, and you got your daily, and then your long-term at the 204, whatever it is, but then maybe create a third one where it is a situation where you've got somebody who, you know, like in this, taught it, has it, and really brings a lot to the
A
table.
lot of value
to
there.
kind of look at.
Yeah.
I look at it, you know, and we always throw that line out, it's for the kids, you know, it's an easy line to hide behind. But in a situation like this, I look at it and say, we are getting the best bang for our
The
buck we
best.
can get right here. These kids, you know, are gonna learn something in that classroom. You all know who the teacher is, and you know it's gonna be successful. So I see that as a really good step in at this point in the year. So it's an at-will contract, is the way I look at it, right? I mean, it's just like your contract effectively, right? You negotiate it your own. And I also look at the,
There is no contract for long-term
but we
sub,
don't
is there?
have to, I mean, if we decide we don't want this person, yeah, they're not doing a good job, see you later. We don't have to give them.
Or they can call in tomorrow and say,
Right, so either way, that relationship is, let's go the other way, as was evidenced by the departure of the teacher prior to that. You know, we got an immediate notice. And if we've had a history of hiring some teachers who fit the bill perfectly, I think of one of the other social studies teachers we had 2 years ago, where we give them, well, we'll hire you at step 12 or whatever it is, or step 14, to enhance the hiring, because we want them. You know, where we've looked at them and said, we like you, we want you, this is the spot where we can enhance it, we'll bring you in at a step 24, whatever it is. So we do have a little bit of negotiation back and forth, and I'm looking at this similarly, saying, all right, this is a good situation. And I think finally, the thing I'm looking at that he brought up is we're saving some money by doing this, and we're getting quality teaching by doing this. So I look at the two of those, and that's why I asked you about how much is the difference between what's being asked and what would have been paid, you know, in terms of salary, in terms of benefits. You know, it's quite a chunk of change difference anyway. And even at the top end, what did you come up with? $4,200 roughly, I think is the number.
yeah, that was just salary though. That was just salary, that wasn't.
But that didn't take into account the considerations of benefits. You know, so we're getting a substantial up in terms of the money, we're saving some. So I don't
Is that
necessarily,
even with the requested amount, or is that based on the 204?
know the requested amount.
Okay.
And like you said, and that's just this chunk of the year, right? I mean, this last 3.5, 4 months of teaching. So, I mean, it's a substantial saving. So I look at that, and the applicant says those. I mean, they're really good points, you know. We are
But I guess
getting,
my point would be, we've already had some long-term sub people that I would say would fall in the same situation, that we didn't pay extra. And we just hired a half-time fourth grade teacher that we hired at.
That would fall into basically the same.
Same
I disagree, because the category that the fourth grade teacher falls into is a new, let's explore, let's find out. We're not talking bringing back and putting the square peg in the square block again. We don't know, so we're out on a limb right now with that fourth grade teacher, and we're saying, let's go ahead and pay this and let's see how this works out. This is a different situation, so I'm looking at the exact, and that's the only reason,
Well,
like I
I'm
said.
looking at, it's not a different situation, because it involves kids, and it involves licensure and experience, because that's the point of this right here, you know? And I'm not sure how that could not be the same situation.
But this is an
Or we've
added
had
expense in
maternity.
fourth grade. It's
Yeah,
that we
we've had
didn't start.
maternity leaves, and we've put in teachers that are fully licensed and experienced in that grade level, and we've paid that same rate. So.
Right, I'm leery of stepping out on this limb and saying,
Yeah.
you know, in the perfect situation. That's the second question I ask you. How often do we get somebody who matches up that perfectly?
It's
And you-
luck. I mean, a couple years ago, we had an English teacher that retired, and something happened with her replacement, and she came back in as a long-term sub and filled that. You know, so it's luck.
And that
Right
was,
now,
yeah.
we, like I've mentioned, and sometimes we take the best person we can find, and sometimes it might be someone that's not even licensed in that area, that can do the long-term subbing. So I think we're on the same page. We do agree that there's a value to it and there's cost savings. My only concern right now is at this juncture, I have a hard time doing something totally different for one person. I think I would rather have a process in place so that we can address that monetarily, but have something in place that is set up.
Agreed, where we have, like Boyd was saying, okay, you've got this third iteration of it where you have,
Master category.
if you have the educational components, you have the licensure, you have this, that you would like to be able to not only reward that, but attract that. You know, where you go to a world person, you know, and that's the whole reason we upped the sub rate, was to say, all right, let's make sure we get the best subs in here. We want these. So can we actually go out and recruit with this number? And we can say to them, you know, look, you got it. You know, you're living in St. Cloud now, but you can come up here and, hey, a long-term sub, it's only 6 months of your life, but maybe give it a try. And we go out as a sales pitch and try to get some of these people.
Yep, I agree. There's just, I've had conversations with people where I've said, no, this is what the rate is. I mean, you're worth more than that, but this is what we have set up for paying it.
Right, and then, so my final argument would be, we seem to get a decent amount of subs in there, and I'm not bad-mouthing any of them, because I think right now we're in a really good position in terms of subs. I see lots of quality in there, so you don't want sub to become a babysitting situation either. And that's where I look at it and say, I would like somebody in that room who knows how to teach and is good at it and understands the components of what they're throwing out there. I don't need to be in a math class teaching math, you know, because it will become a babysitting prospect for Tim Lyon. So we're, like I said, I'm on the same page. I just want to make sure that this doesn't get swept somewhere, because I think there's potential to make our educational process better. You know, when we get these situations, maternity leaves, which we want to embrace and not cringe at when the time comes, or illness. You know, we haven't had something like a Jeff Stefani, you know, for a long time, but where you get that long-term illness, or we want to be able to make sure that that doesn't just destroy a kid's physics career because you got somebody in there who doesn't understand the physics.
So maybe some direction for staff would be just to, can we look into other, I don't know, if there's other examples of creating a tiered system, and maybe it's not just one, but it could be a couple based on qualifications, and then, because you don't want it swept under the rug, and I kind of agree with that. I think it's important.
Yeah, you have a lot of good points.
Yeah.
But I agree with.
Yeah, we see that. I mean, you see that the long-term sub thing it's different than a sub, I think, in terms of a couple days. I just think it's a different animal.
Yep, and in a perfect world, we'd have someone like this step into that position.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, I'm not arguing that,
right.
and I'm not arguing whether it's worth the $46 more a day. My point is setting precedents where we haven't
Established it
No,
before
Right.
the
I
request.
just would
Yep.
rather have something set up where it's consistent and
And then apply it. Set it up and then
have
apply
it
it.
in place before the next school year starts, where this is our process for long-term subbing and how we determine their pay.
Fair enough.
And have it in writing, and
Okay.
so it's very concrete. I have one more thing. I also put in my report that Badette Bay School property, and I bet Mr. Burcham or Ms. Trask can discuss more exactly what that piece of land is like and where it's at. It's the one off the Badette Bay, just past the VFW.
It was, that's the same piece that the city looked at for a while, correct?
Yes, yep. I'm trying to find my notes here.
Not just to maybe give you, it's very narrow, very steep. Got some wildlife values, no doubt, because it is heck in there, and I mean, there's that, and I think that would be one of our concerns on selling this, but I don't know if we'd have that issue. I mean, we've got some shoreline there, but I'm working with MnDOT. I think they would, you know, they're very much aware of, you know, of shorelines, wetlands, per se, things of that sort. That would be my only concern, is that the integrity of that piece, because there's some integrity there, is no doubt. But I don't know what their plans are. Is it just kind of a temporary plans of putting equipment there, or is it going to be a permanent?
My understanding, and we had a very brief discussion, they're widening the road. So they want to purchase the land, and I think it's more for the widening of the road, maybe. I
More
don't
for
know.
right away than anything else, maybe.
Yeah.
Right away.
Where I would probably have to think most of their work that they're going to do is going to be on the top side next to the road.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be my, I'm sure, I mean, they're looking at, the shoreline set, the things that they have to follow as far as the protected waterways and things of that sort. I don't think, if they follow that, I wouldn't have any issue.
So is it, like, this is that garage or that,
Yeah.
whatever that building is, so it's like
that
this
little
little chunk right here
Yep,
and not that?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it goes all the way up to that seating area, doesn't it? That little.
Right where
Thing
that
there's the
pumps
VFW.
out, that's where it would, yeah,
It ends there.
yeah,
So it's just this small,
yeah.
How much up on the
Piece that
top
goes out, that's
roughly
the
is it?
city's.
It's pretty
Yeah.
steep.
It's steep.
Well, no, but I mean, how much room is there width-wise that's on the top of, without going down the slope? Probably what,
Here to the wall,
20 feet, 100 feet?
maybe a
Yeah,
little
I'm not
further
thinking
than
20
here.
feet.
If I had to guess, I'd say MnDOT's just trying to dot the i's, cross the t's. They probably don't necessarily need it for the entire right-of-way, because they're not gonna run the road right up to the edge of the bank. And they're probably just, do you wanna get rid of it? And neaten the whole
Versus-
thing up. That was
Yeah, it was.
Generator kicking.
interesting. So, I guess I'd say it's that, because what are they, I mean, they're not gonna do anything down the
True.
slope, more than likely.
Is it worth anything? I mean, that's what we'd have to find out.
I think it might be worth
Someone wants to
40
buy
of
it.
state land somewhere else.
There's
Yeah, upland.
Got the shoreline there, so maybe if they wanna do a direct swap.
Yeah,
they could,
maybe, or a paving job or something.
Yeah, something like that. Get some work.
So what I'm
in
hearing the
time.
board say, you'd be willing to consider
Yes,
letting that.
I would.
We considered
so.
this before, and we just kind of went around on it. and
I don't think
just-
anybody wanted it at that
No.
time.
I mean, I think the city wanted us just to give it to them for some, like this,
They were gonna,
to square everything up kind
they
of,
were gonna clear it.
were they?
Yeah, they were gonna clear it so you could see the bridge and the
Oh,
waterways. And there was a time that they were gonna put some docks down there. I don't think that is,
Quite honestly, there might be a level of liability for us too, having that little piece on a steep chunk like that and everything.
oh, it's
so-
steep. I've walked it. It's,
Yeah, it's a little
it's,
gnarly.
So I will get back with them and just say that you're willing to consider it.
What do you have in
See what the
mind?
next steps are.
And just talk about the environmental things and the waterway stuff and,
yeah, that's.
you know,
Yep.
but I,
right, and the fact that it's the only piece of land in Lake Woods County that's considered from a vertical nature and not a horizontal. There's some uniqueness there.
I think that's all I have,
All right,
unless someone has questions for me.
Quick question, Jeff. Name of the representative from Northland Counseling, that was Odessa,
yes.
Dessa?
DESSA,
Bergen.
Bergen? Bergen.
just like it sounds, BERGAN.
Thank you very much.
okay, and Brian?
I just have one thing, just a time change for graduation commencement ceremony. Recommendation to go from 7 PM to 6 PM. And the reason why is we've got about 45 graduates this year. And I've had quite a few parents that have asked if we could move it back 1 hour so that they could host graduation parties that night after graduation and not wait for a Saturday or a Sunday. And we have had some people that have had graduation ceremony or graduation, get-togethers or parties after our 7 o'clock, and it got to be a little too late. So just moving it at 6 o'clock. Talked to the senior advisors, and they didn't think it was a big deal, so I would bring it up to you.
No, as a parent of a senior, I don't think that it's, I don't know, I'd just be sitting around for 1 more hour waiting, so.
And there's no school that day. we're done basically Thursday at noon, Friday is the graduation.
I think it's also, there's a lot of people that don't realize that that is not Memorial Day weekend as well. I think that people kind of assume that, I think some people recently have assumed that, oh, it's not the Friday before, no.
Any objections to changing the time?
And one other thing, right now we have, we've graced your Board of Education top there with 3 metal roses. Our welding department is going to use those as a fundraiser, and I believe they're gonna do it for $20 a rose for Valentine's Day. So they're gonna make them and sell them.
I saw them and was wondering what those were about. That makes sense now.
You gotta check
Yeah,
these out.
they're heavy.
I'm gonna make Woody take a picture of one so we can put it in the paper too.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, they are heavy.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a really cool
Wow.
testament that the welding program being brought back is a good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah,
those are cool.
I like it.
I wouldn't want my Valentine to get mad at me there.
They're on the fast track on selling them because,
There's gonna be a lot of orders anymore.
oh yeah,
They're cool.
That is cool.
preferably before Valentine's Day.
Just need,
Yeah.
can make magnolias, steel magnolias.
Okay. Business office, Crystal?
I don't have any more than what.
Okay. Activities, Chad?
As a little bit of discussion beforehand, one act play advanced to the section tournament next Saturday in Crookston. They placed second out of the 5 teams in our subsection that was held here last Saturday. So they did a nice job. Everyone that competed. First time in 20-some years.
I think, Brian, you said 1995?
1995.
First time in a long time that they've advanced. So that's really great for them. They put a lot of work into it this year.
Kudos to the kids
Yeah.
and the director.
Is there going to be another showing? I mean, I know.
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday night.
Do you know what time?
Tomorrow night is both plays, I believe, right?
I don't know.
I think they're doing both.
Do you know what time? I'll find out.
Not off the top of my head. Last Friday, we did the basketball game during school day again. A lot of fun, kids liked it. Game didn't end up quite the way we wanted it, either session. But once again, it was a good thing. I'd like to continue doing something like this next year. I've sent out an email to the hockey schools this year, or next year. So with the arena next door now, I'd like us to do a hockey game next year if possible. So we kids all over and watch the hockey game in the afternoon. So we'll just kind of keep it on a rotation, maybe the following year for homecoming, do a volleyball game, and then have our homecoming game at 4:30. So just something like that, so the kids get to see something that they may not. A lot of kids don't get to go to games.
The official answer is 7 p.m. tomorrow.
Subsections will be, or section play for our winter sports will be here before we know it. Girls basketball starts subsection play on February 24th, hockey on February 18th, and boys basketball on February 28th. So that'll be here for the last week of January already. Sometime the end of February, probably that last Tuesday, we'll have our spring sports meeting.
Buildings and grounds?
Just a couple things. One, Tim happened to notice that we did refinish the multi-gym floor. I believe it's been 5+ years since it's redone. Turned out phenomenal. It's helped out a lot. A lot of people are using that one. And then the other thing to bring up is we did get our final rebate check today. And there's 15,000 something. Do you remember the
Is it-
correct total?
Well, I want to say it was 14,900 and something, but
Approximately.
yeah.
It could be, 'cause I just glimpsed at it and got it turned in right away.
It's
so-
right in that $15,000 ballpark.
Yeah, it is, so that's the final, and, we got everything and we got paid for what we were quoted at the beginning for it. Everything was done.
Good.
Yep. Any questions on anything?
No, okay. Brent? Committee head?
He is getting a bus out of the snowbank.
Oh, no.
So he's probably not gonna make it. Nothing serious, just got stuck. So he said that, just let you know that they're doing sign up for driver's ed, and at this time they have 15 kids signed up for driver's ed.
Did we ever figure out what was happening with the in-between kids? Like, I know,
For the fees?
yeah, for the fees.
There was something on the registration that it is reduced.
If they only need like if they've had the class and they just need the behind the wheel or something.
Yep.
I had it on my
Okay,
phone,
I guess I
but-
hadn't seen the registration.
I know they filled up
Huh.
because there's a backlog, so.
I had that.
That I don't know.
Okay.
If she can find it, or I can find out.
$350 for classroom and behind the wheel, and $275 behind the wheel course only. And this option will only be offered this year.
Bit of a break.
Makes sense.
That's what it was. Okay. And then food service, it's easy, nothing.
I guess I would say that we've met and are beginning the process with our new food policy on unpaid meals, so we're starting that process.
Have you ever applied for any funds from any grants or anything to pay some of those off? Just curious.
No,
You know, some,
About the angel funds or something?
yeah, or,
Well-
sometimes like the,
we have started an angel
uh-huh,
and are working on getting that built
Uh-huh.
up, and we're still in the process of developing criteria
Okay.
and procedures, so
okay.
that's
I was
in the
just
works.
curious.
Yeah.
So then you could, solicit for funds to support that, yeah,
Yeah, we just have to clarify how the funds would be dispersed.
right,
So,
yeah.
And a lot of the other programs, like grants we kind of were talking about, a lot of them have that 50% threshold, which
Uh-huh.
we are under now
Okay,
for free and reduced, so that's what a lot of them have.
okay. I was thinking more like local organizations, like
Yeah.
the gambling organizations and some of those
yeah,
things
there
like
was
that.
someplace I saw in the news where, I think it was a church group,
A lot of
raised money
times,
and paid the
someone will,
schools unpaid lunch bill.
I just think it's worth, it might be worth exploring once you
Yeah.
get it set up.
And you had talked about working at concessions, or? was
Yes, a couple of us have been working at the Bears Den to raise money for the Angel Fund, and,
Okay. Is that something that school board members could assist with?
oh, absolutely.
Really, you mean like just clock your time in and donate it? Or do
Yeah,
you
you put
actually,
your time in, and then whatever the earnings are.
you actually take your chunk of the night, say I'm doing the basketball game and say this is an Angel Fund night?
Yep. The groups sign up for it. If you want to come and pop popcorn, I think we're doing it tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night's PBIS.
Oh, tomorrow night's PBIS?
On Tuesday, the 4th, is Angel Fund.
Okay. I just show up when it's on my calendar. Show what we're doing right now.
Not sure why you're showing
There's a
up.
couple things, yeah, I just show up. So I can send you out the dates that we've signed up if you're interested.
Yeah, well, I guess that would be good. Okay.
So good board chair. You have a conscience. That's good. Appreciate that.
Well. Anything else? Otherwise, we adjourn and open the regular meeting. Okay.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, no, I was just
Yeah.
about to say, can everyone see it? And then you guys all started right in. I was gonna move it if I needed to.
Yeah, we need to get that flag so it's a little more prominent.
We've done that before, I think. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Jeff, Boyd. With the following corrections, I guess, we'll make that addendum. Addition of Chelsea Anderson resignation, in addition of AFSCME contract 2019 and 2021. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay. Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes, approval of invoices and statements, personnel resignations, retirements, and appointments. Resignations, Natalie Hepner, high school social studies teacher, and Chelsea Anderson, paraprofessional. And appointments, Rob Perla, head robotics coach, and Nyla O'Connell, part-time fourth grade teacher.
I'll make that motion.
Lynn?
I'll
Second.
Whoever.
Go ahead, Rob.
Okay.
All in, or any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Board presenters? No board presenters. Any written communications? No? Okay. Old business. Looking for a motion to approve the third reading and adoption of policies. Policy 707, transportation of public school students, and policy 602A, Lake of the Woods School emergency weather-related closing.
I'll make that motion.
Lynn?
I'll second that.
Tim? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Oh, okay, on my spot. Looking for an motion to approve the second reading of policy 903, visitors to school district buildings and sites.
Make the motion.
I'll second that.
And Lynn, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business. Looking for a motion to approve the first of three readings of policies 709, student transportation safety policy, the removal of policy 423A, activity passes for school staff, and the removal of policy 402A, non-discrimination HIPAA.
Make the motion.
Boyd?
Second it.
Jeff? Any discussion? And I think we just talked about the activity passes for school staff, that we would address that in,
Yearly.
Future budget.
yeah,
Yep. on
May or
annual
June.
basis.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Well,
Opposed? None. Okay, looking for a motion to approve the first reading and adoption of policies 104, school district mission statement, 404, employee background checks, and 424, license status.
Do these only, I'm sorry.
We'll make the
Never mind.
motion.
Okay, Boyd,
Second.
Tim, and discussion?
No discussion.
Yeah. Do these only require one reading? Or should it be the third reading?
First reading and adoption is for just minor changes.
Okay, so we don't need three readings. That's all I was
No.
checking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For example, the mission statement was just, you've already approved the
Right,
mission statement,
yep.
we're just updating the policy,
It
so
was
it's.
very minor changes, I recall,
Right.
too.
I just wanted to make sure that we were.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve the MSEA contract 2019 through 2021.
I'll make that motion.
Lynn,
Second.
Boyd? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve the high school principal contract 2019 through 2021.
I'll make a motion.
And I'll
Robin?
second it.
Tim? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And looking for a motion to approve the AFSCME contract 2019 through 2021.
I'll make the motion.
Boyd?
I'll second that.
Lynn? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Any other business? Okay, call for adjournment at 7:09.
Nice.
Thank you.